Stroke Occurrence and Recovery through TSI Jerk and Instability Part 2, number 1579, VPT 115, March 21, 2026, Gerald C. EclaireMD Foundation, Category, Stroke and Research Methodology. Interpretation of recovery behavior. After July 2025, the magnitude of jerk gradually decreases, acceleration fluctuations become smaller, velocity becomes smoother, and TSI returns toward a more controlled range. These changes indicate improved system stability and reduced internal disturbance. Stroke recovery therefore does not occur as an instant and immediate correction. Instead, it reflects a slow and gradual stabilization process in which instability fluctuations progressively diminish, and the biomedical system regains balance. Conclusion: TSI Jerk introduces the concept of instability transition into stroke risk analysis and provides an additional dimension beyond magnitude alone. The findings suggest that stroke is associated more closely with instability behavior than with peak values. Large jerk magnitudes indicate rapid changes in instability, while oscillating jerk patterns reflect unstable system dynamics. Recovery corresponds to a gradual reduction in instability fluctuations. TSI Jerk therefore helps reveal hidden instability that may not be visible when observing magnitude alone, while still maintaining a simple structure suitable for practical daily monitoring. Final statement: TSI shows where the system is. Velocity show where the system is moving. Acceleration indicates whether the system is stable or unstable. Jerk indicates whether instability is changing too rapidly. Stroke appears to occur when instability changes faster than the vascular system can adapt. The dynamic biomedical model therefore benefits from observing not only magnitude, but also stability behavior over time. Together, these layers provide a clearer physics-based interpretation of stroke occurrence and recovery while remaining simple enough for practical daily monitoring. VMT analysis illustration and validation. The following figures illustrate the key results of applying the VMT framework to the longitudinal biomedical dataset. These graphics translate complex physiological interactions into strain-stress relationships and time domain recovery behavior. Together, they show that system instability, rather than peak magnitude alone, explains both the stroke occurrence and the subsequent recovery process. 1. VMT strain-stress diagram PP, SPP. The strain-stress diagram presents the structural relationship between output strain of TSI jerk and instability versus three major input stressors, PP pulse, pressure, SPP systolic blood pressure, AG estimated average glucose. Each curve represents the system response trajectory across multiple time segments. The slope and enclosed area represent accumulated VMT energy. VMT energy contribution results: PP equals 36%, SPP equals 34%, EAG equals 30%. These values show a relatively balanced distribution of mechanical and metabolic influences. PP reflects vascular stiffness and pulsatile loading. SPP represents sustained background pressure acting on vessel walls. EAG represents metabolic stress affecting endothelial function and vascular integrity. The results indicate that stroke risk is not dominated by a single variable, but arises from the combined interaction of pressure dynamics and glucose-related metabolic effects. Similar to viscoplastic materials in engineering, repeated stress cycles gradually accumulate structural damage. Failure tends to occur when adaptive capacity is exceeded, not necessarily when the absolute stress reaches its maximum value. 2. TSI dynamic behavior level, velocity, acceleration, jerk. The TSI 3B dynamic plots illustrate the time evolution of system stability over the 18-month period. TSI level represents overall stress magnitude and remains within a moderate range throughout most of the observation window. Velocity reflects the rate and direction of system change. Noticeable directional changes appear prior to the stroke month. Acceleration reflects stability of physiological adaptation. Larger fluctuations indicate instability in regulatory response. Jerk reflects sudden instability shocks, indicating abrupt physiological adjustment behavior. The key observation is that the stroke did not occur at the highest TSI level, but during a period of increased instability characterized by large changes in velocity and acceleration. This behavior is consistent with fatigue failure in engineering systems, where structural failure often occurs during rapid transition rather than at maximum load. 3. Cumulative time zone recovery behavior. The cumulative recovery curve shows a generally upward trajectory toward 100%, indicating progressive stabilization of the biomedical system after disturbance, although small. fluctuations exist. The overall pattern shows gradual convergence towards stable equilibrium after the stroke month of 6/1025. The absence of abrupt turning points suggests recovery occurs through progressive stem adjustment rather than sudden correction. The cumulative VMT energy curve also reveals a natural recovery window of approximately 3 months, often referred to as the 3-month golden window after stroke, during which instability gradually decreases and physiological control progressively improves. 4. Overall interpretation. These illustrations consistently show that instability dynamics provide more predictive insight than isolated peak values. Stroke occurrence is associated with rapid change and reduced system stability, while recovery follows a gradual energy dissipation process. The VMT framework therefore provides a physics-based interpretation of biomedical system behavior, linking energy accumulation, structural adaptation, and time-dependent recovery into a unified analytical structure. TDA analysis, illustration, and validation. The 3D scattering diagram. The 3D scattering trajectory diagram of jerk, EP, and SBP reveals a clear geometric topology change before and after the stroke event in 6/1025. Before 6/1025, the spatial structure appears loose, scattered, and widely dispersed across the 3D domain. The trajectory path moves irregularly with large directional variation, indicating unstable interactions among vascular pressure dynamics and physiological adjustment mechanisms. This loose geometric distribution reflects a system under fluctuating stress conditions, where instability gradually accumulates. From a structural mechanics viewpoint, such dispersion represents reduced adherence of system control, increasing vulnerability to failure. After 6/1025, the trajectory becomes noticeably more compact and clustered. The path lines move within a narrower spatial region, indicating improved coordination among jerk, EP, and SBP. This compact topology suggests reduced variability and enhanced stability of the biomedical system. The tighter geometric grouping reflects improved physiological regulation and reduced internal disturbance amplitude. In topology terms, the system transitions from a widely distributed configuration to a condensed attractor-like structure. This structural tightening corresponds to recovery behavior. The data therefore visually demonstrate that the stroke occurred during period of geometric instability, while the post-stroke phase shows progressive stabilization and improved system coherence. The 2D radar chart. The radar chart compares for key variables jerk, PP, SBP, AG across several representative months, allowing visualization of the relative balance among dynamic instability, vascular pressure, and metabolic condition. Before the stroke period, the polygon shapes appear more distorted and uneven, indicating imbalance among the 4 variables. In particular, larger jerk variation combined with elevated SBP suggests unstable physiological regulation and inconsistent interaction between mechanical and metabolic stressors. Around the stroke period, the radar shape becomes irregular, reflecting disruption of system equilibrium. This distortion indicates reduced coordination among vascular pressure and glucose-related metabolic control. After the stroke, the radar polygons gradually become more proportionally balanced. The relative magnitudes of PP, SBP, and EG move toward a more stable geometric shape, indicating improved physiological regulation and reduced instability amplitude. The radar chart therefore visually demonstrates the transition from imbalance to improved system coordination. During the recovery process, epilogue regarding research methodologies. TDA and VMT results are highly comparable, and this is an important validation point in my research papers. Even though these 2 methods originate from very different perspectives, they converge to the same structural conclusion about the stroke event and recovery behavior. VMT describes the system through energy distribution and strain-stress interaction. It quantifies how PP, SBP, and EG jointly contribute to accumulated physiological loading. The VMT diagram shows that the system experienced repeated stress redistribution before 6/1025, followed by gradual stabilization afterward. TDA describes the system through geometric topology of the progression trajectory in multidimensional space. The 3D scattering trajectory shows a dispersed structure before 6/1025, indicating instability and irregular system movement. After 6/1025, the trajectory becomes more compact, indicating improved coherence and stability. In other words, VMT shows instability through energy imbalance. TDA shows instability through geometric dispersion. Both methods independently detect the same transition, pre-stroke period greater than scattered, and stable structure post-stroke period greater than compact, stabilized structure. This agreement between two different mathematical frameworks strengthens the credibility of the biomedical interpretation of stroke. When energy domain analysis and topology domain analysis both indicate the same transition pattern, the likelihood of random coincidence becomes very low. This type of cross-disciplinary research method consistency is commonly used in physics and engineering validation, where multiple independent analytical approaches converge toward the same structural conclusion. Therefore, the comparability between VMT and TDA results provides strong support that the observed stroke event is associated with instability transition rather than peak magnitude alone, and that recovery corresponds to progressive stabilization of the biomedical system. Through my own research work, I gradually build increasing confidence in my ability to maintain health and survivability. Disclaimer: I write this paper not for fame, but to share what I have learned so others can understand their health, prevent disease, and live longer, healthier lives. This content is provided for educational reference only and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to T.I. author, Gerald C. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to T.I. author, Gerald C.